Joe Cronin, general manager of the Portland Trail Blazers, with us. And Joe, thanks for being with us. It's been a spell since we've had a sit down. It was at the beginning of the year we talked about that rugged schedule that was laid out in front of the Blazers with all but 2 games against Western Conference opponents. We've now reached that point now after 31 games, so we wanted to check in and just kind of get an assessment of the ball club looking back over the previous 31 games.
Mm-hmm. Before the season, I thought one of the key things that we needed to do and the things that we wanted to see the most was just take consistent steps. And over those first 31, I thought we saw a lot of that. Individually, of course, we're a team with a lot of players that are young and developing, and those are the little wins that we need to bank. Guys, getting better on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. And I think we've seen that from a lot of our young guys. They're taking steps. Team-wise, we're seeing some of that too. We've had, some great performances and some poor performances, but I continue to focus on the high stuff, like what are we capable of on a given night when we're playing, our best, and when we're given our full, experience of talent to the game. What are we doing and how do we look? And I think we've seen that against Clippers, against Minnesota, Denver, Dallas, Houston. We've had some quality wins that have been encouraging. Now, a key thing to taking these steps that we keep talking about is improving our consistency, and I think that's still a big step that we have to take. We have to, raise our floor, not have some of these bad losses that we've had, be competitive on a nightly basis, not just 3 out of the 4 games that week.
So what I'm hearing you tell me now is that you're looking for the potential of the ball club, looking for the best. What is the best we can possibly attain? And then we need to stack one performance on another, one after the other. So let's break it down a little bit and talk about the players individually. And I'm going to pick 2 because they're the newcomers.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Deni Avdija, who's now in his 5th year at the age of 23. All the great skills. I got to hear you talk about his game. And then Donovan Clingan, who's just, as we mentioned, just a massive guy and with a chip on his shoulder and brings exactly what this Blazer team needed.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, with Deni, he's doing everything we hoped he would. He's such a talented guy. Like his combination of size, athleticism, skill set, feel, heart, grit, toughness, it's just a winning product. That, the things Deni does with the ball, like the transition effect and the impact he's had on our team, playing up and down and just getting out and going, but also in the half court with his playmaking. He's making shots now. He's, getting to the rim whenever he needs to. You saw the other night he got to the free throw line a ton. And then, his passing is something that I think is special for a guy his size. And we're seeing, these deliveries and how he makes others better. So Deni, he's the real deal, and he's a really good player, and he's got a very, very bright future.
He seems to be a guy you could build around.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of his multiple skill sets.
Yeah.
And then you've got a stopper. You actually have force at the rim and moving into the future with Clingan, don't you?
We do, yeah. And, Donovan, that's exactly what he is. He's a paint clogger, a rim protector, a rebound gobbler. And the other part that's exciting about Donovan is, there's some offensive talent there. I think we're starting to see some of it with his passing and his shooting. He's obviously a work in progress on that end, but there's so much talent there that can be cultivated on both ends of the floor. Another guy that we're incredibly high on.
And, of course, he's the first pick in the draft of the Blazers this past summer. You go back 2 years ago, the number 3 pick in the draft is Scoot Henderson.
Yeah.
Toughest position, in my opinion, in professional basketball to play is at the point guard position. We've seen a lot of young point guards over the years, some Hall of Famers that have had their difficulties early in their careers.
Sure.
Not to say that Scoot's had a great deal of difficulty, but it's been tough for him. There's no question about that. But what's your evaluation of him now? He's had a really good week this past week.
Yes.
We talked about potential. You're seeing it right now.
Yep. And, it's like we say, show us your high points. Let's see what you're capable of. And I think we saw that, especially these last 2 games, in a lot of different ways. I think the shot making is one thing, and it's something that we're comfortable with, and we really like the progress of his shooting, particularly, when teams are going under, and his just ability to walk into it and let go of it confidently. We're seeing more and more of that. His floor game you're seeing, I think, a lot more composure and purpose to that. The thing we talk about him a lot is changing speeds. We know how electric he is, with with the head of steam. Also, let's see how well you can decelerate and change speeds and make tough shots off the move, tough deliveries off the move. We're just starting to see more and more of that. And you're right, it's just the point guard is extremely complicated in this league, and you're seeing him navigate that. Another challenge we have for him is defensively and starting to pick up, like on ball, he's getting a lot better. 5 steals the other night, a huge block the game before that. Those little things really add up, and it's something I said to him. These are things you control immediately. Your defensive impact, rebounding, making a play, with your effort and your focus. And I think we're seeing more of that. So cumulatively, it's all starting to come together, and that's where we need to remind ourselves. He's 20 years old. He's learning to navigate the most complicated position in this league.
He's got so much talent, so many tricks in the bag, but the great ones keep it simple. Make the simple play, right?
Yep.
And that's hard to learn.
It is.
Sometimes.
It is, especially when you're super talented.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard not to just go try and make that electric play or that, game-changing, momentum-changing action.
So we've talked about Scoot. We've talked about some of the other young components, but there is Shaedon Sharpe, who, again, is into a nice little groove. For the last 5 games, over 20. The three-point shot is falling now. You've got this tremendous ability to get to the rim and finish just incredibly with great acrobatic moves.
Yeah.
What have you seen from him so far this year?
Really happy with where he's at. I think his game has taken the next step, particularly his action in ball screens. He's getting so good at navigating these ball screens. Has become one of the most efficient players in pick and roll in the league. Then you combine that with the other things we've seen, that are the really complicated things like closing during, playing the clutch. Like, we've seen him. I mean, he's a leader in efficiency and points per 36 minutes in the clutch. Like, we're seeing that clutch gene emerge from him where he can finish games for us. And, for me, those two things, when you incorporate all these other things that we kind of knew about Shaedon, how physically gifted he is, how skilled he is, his touch, how good he is around the rim, but you put in his ability to navigate in a pick and roll and make good plays, and then close games in key moments with that clutch gene. As a 21-year-old, that's really exciting for us.
And we're all getting to know his personality, which is even keel, baby. There's something to be said for that over 82 games, right?
There is, over
never
82
too high,
games.
never too low.
Yes, and probably speaks to why he's so comfortable in the clutch. These moments just don't faze him.
Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson, Donovan Clingan, Denny Advia. That's a tremendous core of young players that you have right now.
Thank you.
How's the development going with Chauncey Billups developing the young guys? What are you seeing from Chauncey and his staff? How's that working out?
Yeah, it's interesting. Each player's developmental path is so different. Like when you talk about just Shaedon versus Scoot, Shaedon came to a Trailblazers team that was more competitive, and he had to try and earn a spot right out of the gate, and we had a decent bench, and Chauncey seeing Shaedon's talent right away and trusting him so early in his career, I thought was so big that Chauncey was really comfortable playing him 20 minutes a night for those 80 games that Shaedon played in his rookie year. And I think so much was learned and, from Shaedon's perspective, and he gained so much, experience playing a different role back then. He was a little more cutter and catch and shoot, but still navigating on a basketball floor, guarding all these different players, learning the personnel. But Chauncey's empowerment early with Shaedon I thought was so big, and I think we're seeing dividends of that now. And Chauncey continues to trust and see the capabilities. Okay, we got to put him in more ball screens. Okay, it's late in the game. We need a big play. This is Shaedon that's going to do that. So identifying that talent is an important thing for a coach, especially a young guy where, coaches can be a little protective and, their trust is a really important factor. But for him to trust Shaedon at such an early stage, I think is big. With Scoot, it's a different path. Scoot came to a different type of roster, had a more complicated position, like we were talking about. He was going to have the ball a lot more. Chauncey's a great resource for Scoot because he went through that same thing. So, Chauncey talks about it a lot, and you hear Scoot talk about it. Just navigating this league early in your career as a point guard, I think Chauncey, it's been an important relationship, and Chauncey's been a good mentor in that way, just helping him understand that this is take the little steps, the big stuff is coming.
Joe, how much do you and Chauncey and the staff need to see Scoot and Shaedon play together? Let's talk about that a little bit.
the more the better. The more we're so data driven, as a league, and especially I think Portland as an organization, that the more data we get, the more comfortable we get with, what we're receiving from those lineups. There's things we can parse away even from small connections. If they're, say it's only 6 minutes tonight together on the floor, we still can learn from these things. More is, of course, better. But it's an important part of team building as we're getting further along here, as our guys start to develop and we start getting more and more competitive. We've got to find the answers to, okay, what do we still need? What skill sets do we need to add? What personalities do we need to add? How do we keep improving, and really complement this core base that we're building? So, data for us is important, and, it's not just Scoot and Shaedon together, it's all these different combinations of guys. I mean, for us, the main thing right now was the availability component of it. Last year we had too many injuries. It was hard. Like, we just didn't get enough of these guys on the floor. Shaedon just didn't flat out get enough minutes. So our data was limited in all these different combinations we're trying to evaluate. This year it's been a little better.
Yeah, and a gentleman who did get some time last year until he got hurt late in the year and is just off to a tremendous start this year. Mm-hmm. Nobody really knew who this guy was except you and the staff down in Phoenix, Arizona. That's Toumani Camara. Mm-hmm. Just the way he has brought this defensive tenacity and camaraderie and leadership to the floor has really been enlightening.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And Toumani, I mean, we're so happy and proud of him, and where he's come from and where he is and where he's headed. We've seen Toumani take some big steps this year. I mean, defensively, of course, is something he really leans on, but there's so many layers to being that high-end defender. I think you're seeing more and more of him taking on the biggest challenge on the floor, him guarding all these different types of guys, him being impactful, for 36 minutes a night defensively, and then seeing some of his offensive game unlock more and more, get more and more comfortable shooting the three ball, starting to play off the move a little more and deliver, compete at the rim. We're seeing all these things with Toumani step by step, and I'm really happy about the step he's taken from college to year one to year two. Really excited to see what 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 entail.
It's an interesting roster. It's got depth to it, and it's got guys who, you mentioned, are good in crunch time. Shaedon Sharpe, and we've had two guys that have hit back-to-back game winners, and Anthony Simons, a veteran, if you will, at the tender age of, 25, and then Scoot with that game winner as well. I mean, that speaks to just the quality of readiness on your roster.
That's right, quality of readiness, and we hope a quality of talent. We're really happy about the talent leap we've taken from last year to this year. We're a lot more talented now than we were 12 months ago, hoping to be more talented, much more talented 12 months from now. But I think we're seeing that, a guy like Anthony is one of the best clutch players in the league, and we've seen that year after year. A guy like Scoot comes in, makes a huge impact these last two games. We've seen numerous guys make plays down the stretch. Denny, DeAndre, Shaedon, Jeremy. So hopefully it speaks to just the talent throughout this roster, and that there's a lot of guys capable of making big plays for us.
And for an organization that is rebuilding, that's in a somewhat of a process. We've got Philly here tonight, so I'll use that term, the process. I don't know if you want to buy into that or not.
Yeah.
You've got a trade deadline coming up. Mm-hmm. You've got some, it's the cold hard fact, you have fungible assets, as they say in the business. You have players that other teams covet, that other teams could use. Mm-hmm. Are you in a listening mode? Are you proactive? Where are you right now in terms of the trade?
Yeah, I think mentality-wise, especially the stage we're in, we always have to be proactive. We like to be aggressive. We know how important trades as a roster construction vehicle are for us. So we always approach, not just the trade deadline, but, the off season and throughout the season. Like, we always want to be active in trades and look for ways to get better. I mean, for us, how do we add more talent? How do we add more complementary pieces that fit this talent? So for us, it's just turn over every rock and really get active out there and, talk to teams and listen and see what deals make sense for us.
But you don't feel that there's any immediacy at all as you approach the trade deadline?
No, I don't. Of course, I feel immediate. I want to get better.
Yeah.
But I'm approaching this trade deadline as I try to approach all trade circumstances. If it makes sense for us, we'll look at it. If it doesn't, we're not going to do something that doesn't make sense. And it's a nice position to be in where we feel like we can be patient and explore and make good, sound decisions.
How much are you guys spending time in Durham, North Carolina?
We spend time everywhere. Yeah. These guys, our scouts, guys and gals, they are out and hitting the circuit hard. I don't know how many are even here for this game tonight because they're out watching games and trying to find us the next Trailblazers.
Yeah. So, Joe, as you look to the roster, as you look to the ball club, I'm hearing you say that you like what you're seeing. They are stacking performance after performance. Mm-hmm. You'd like to see a few more close games and keep that going, as we've seen the trend now. And obviously, it's heading that direction. Mm-hmm. Would that be a correct assessment of what we're hearing from you today?
Definitely consistency. Again, from individuals and the team. I want to see us. I think we've individually we've shown what we're capable of. How do we do it more often and more frequently? Team-wise, I think we've shown what we're capable of with some quality wins. Yeah. How do we sustain that? And I think it's a natural step for a young team like ours.
I go back to that roster again, and some of the young guys that have played down with the remix here in Portland and have been contributors, obviously, to what's going on last year and again this year. How important has that been to have a team here in town, the remix in the G League?
It's critical. Player development is arguably the most important thing that we do in this league. How do we help these super talented guys get better? And I don't know that there's a better vehicle than the G League to do that. And two great examples for us this year, the guys who spent a ton of time with the remix last year, Ryan Rupert and Chris Murray, who are both, last year couldn't crack the rotation. This year got better. Now they're flirting with that rotation. And I think a lot of that growth that we've seen from both Rupert and Murray was attained in the G League last year.
We had Greg Oden that was in the building a couple of nights ago. And what occurred to me is just how thankful he was to have had that NBA experience. And he wasn't sour at all about what had happened. It wasn't a woe is me attitude. He was looking to just help and be a mentor to other players. Yeah. That'd be exciting for you to see him come into the building.
For sure. It's great to see Greg. My intern year was Greg's first year with us. So it was cool. I saw him from day one. And it was so great seeing him come back and connect with us and connect with his city. Something we're trying to do a lot better job of is, bringing more and more players around. I think it's not just great for us, but great for them. And it's something that Brandon Scott on the business ops side, who is the director of alumni, he's doing a great job connecting with these guys and getting them here with us and hoping to build those relationships.
Joe, thanks for sharing your time. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Kevin.
We look forward to the season as it unfolds here. We're near the halfway mark. Hard to believe.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good seeing you.
Okay.
Joe Cronin, GM of the Blazers.